Hello students, welcome to the third practical of human anatomy and physiology, and in today's practical we will be studying about connective tissue. The aim of today's practical is to perform microscopic examination or microscopic study of connective tissue. So let's start. So talking about connective tissue is a type of tissue, as the name suggests. It connects and supports different part of the body, right? And connective tissue is the most abundant type of tissue which is present in the body. The main prime functions of connective tissue is binding and structural support, protection, transport of substances, and insulation, right? So we can classify connective tissue into two broad categories, and those categories are further subdivided. So the broad categories are connective tissue proper and specialized connective tissue. Connective tissue proper is further subdivided into loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue, and specialized connective tissue is divided into reticular, blood, bone, cartilage, and adipose tissue. So in the coming slides we will be studying about all these different types of connective tissues in details. Now, in a very general way, we can say that there are three components of a connective tissue, first being the cell, second being the ground substance, and the third being the fibers, right? So ground substance and the fibers, they together make up to form extracellular matrix, which is also termed as ECM, right? So primary cells of the connective tissue are mainly the fibroblast. Apart from fibroblast, there are certain other cells which are present in your connective tissue, like macrophages, lymphocytes, mast cells, and adipocytes, or the fat cells. Now coming to the ground substance, which was the second component. So ground substance is mainly a viscous gel-like substance which consists of water, glycoproteins. It mainly consists of a large amount of water, and it mainly keeps the cells and the tissues hydrated. Then the third component was the fiber, right? So there are mainly three types of fibers which are present in the connective tissue. One being your collagen fiber, second being your elastic fiber, and the third being your reticular fiber. As I told you in my previous slide, that there are two subdivisions of connective tissue proper, one being your loose connective tissue and the second being your regular or dense connective tissue, right? We'll first study about the loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue is also termed as your areolar connective tissue, and it has equal amount of cells, fibers, and ground substance. So each of the component is almost equal in loose connective tissue. Loose connective tissue are one of the most generalized type of connective tissue, and the matrix is semi-solid, somewhat semi-solid kind, with many fibroblasts and some fat cells, mast cells, and macrophages, which are widely separated by elastic and collagen fiber. Chief cells are the fibroblasts. However, there are certain immune cells which are also present, right? Collagen fibers, they are the principal fiber of the extracellular matrix, and they are very widely distributed within the ECM. That is why they are termed as loose connective tissue, right? Beside the collagen fiber, certain amount of reticular and elastic fibers are also present. This is a structure of loose connective tissue. You can see the presence of fibroblast, collagen fibers, adipocytes, and elastic fiber. It connects and supports other tissues. For example, it is present under the skin, it is present between the bones, it is present supporting the blood vessels and the nerves in the body, and it is present in the alimentary canal, and it is present in the glands, which helps the secretory cells. Next, coming to the dense connective tissue. So dense connective tissue, as the name suggests, it has fewer number of cells than the loose connective tissue, right? Instead, its ECM is densely packed with collagen fibers. It has a lot of collagen fibers. Then dense connective tissue is further subdivided into two categories, one being your fibrous tissue and the other being your elastic tissue. Talking about fibrous tissue, this tissue is made up of closely packed bundles of collagen fibers with a very little matrix in it, and fibroblasts are very few in number, and they lie in rows between the bundles of the fibers, right? Then coming to your elastic fibers, elastic fiber is, capable of a considerable amount of extension and recoil. It can stretch basically, right? There are few cells and the matrix consists of elastic fibers which are secreted by the fibroblast, and it is found in organs where stretching and alteration of shape is required. For example, it is present in the urinary bladder. First is the diagram of your fibrous tissue and the second is the diagram of the elastic tissue. Now the next type of connective tissue is your blood. So it is a specialized connective tissue, a fluid connective tissue basically, which is present within the circulatory system, and it helps in the transport of blood cells and substances throughout the body with the help of blood vessels, right? It is known for transporting substances throughout the body, right? The extracellular matrix of blood is termed as plasma, and it consists of water and different solutes like your proteins, electrolytes, gases, hormones, waste products, etc. Right? Now coming to your cartilage. So cartilage is a firmer kind of a tissue as compared to other connective tissue. The cells, they are sparse and they lie embedded in the matrix, reinforced by a collagen and elastic fiber, right? So this is a kind of a stiff tissue basically, you can say. Cartilage can be further subdivided into three categories, one being your hyaline cartilage, second being your fibrocartilage, and the third being your elastic fibrocartilage. So hyaline cartilage is a smooth bluish white kind of a tissue, and the chondrocytes, they are mainly arranged in small groups within cell nest, and the matrix is solid and smooth, right? Hyaline cartilage, it basically provides flexibility, support and smooth surface for movements of the joints. It is mainly present on the ends of long bones, and it is also present forming the costal cartilage which attach the ribs to the sternum. Now coming to your fibrocartilage. Fibrocartilage mainly has, masses of white collagen fibers in a matrix similar to that of hyaline cartilage. It is a very tough, slightly flexible, a supporting kind of a tissue. Then coming to the elastic cartilage or elastic fibrocartilage, right? So this is a flexible tissue which consists of a yellow elastic fiber lying in a solid matrix with chondrocytes. Chondrocytes are the cell of the cartilage, right? It provides support and it, maintains the shape of a particular part. It is mainly present on the walls of the external ear and the epiglottis. This is the structure of the three tissues. First one is the structure of a hyaline cartilage, the second is the structure of a fibrocartilage, and the third is the structure of the elastic fibrocartilage or elastic cartilage, right? Then comes your bone. So bone cells, as you know, are also termed as your osteocytes, and they are surrounded by a matrix of collagen fiber which is strengthened by inorganic salts, mainly calcium and potassium. Bone also has considerable capacity for growth in the first 2 decades of life and for regeneration throughout life. It can regenerate throughout life, right? So 2 types of bone can be identified, one being your compact bone and the second being your spongy bone. Compact bones are mainly dense in appearance and spongy bones are like honeycomb in appearance with holes, basically small holes. They are basically hollow kind of a structure. Next comes your adipose tissue. So adipose tissue mainly consists of fat cells, and the fat cells are termed as your adipocytes, containing a large amount of fat globules in a matrix of areolar tissue, right? Adipose tissue can be further subdivided into 2 categories, one being your white adipose tissue and the second being your brown adipose tissue. Talking about white adipose tissue, this makes up 20 to 25% of the body weight in adults with a normal BMI. It is present in a larger quantity in obese individuals and less in the individuals who are underweight. And adipose tissue mainly helps in the secretion of a hormone which is termed as leptin. Talking about brown adipose tissue, so this is mainly present in newborn individuals. It has a more extensive capillary network as compared to white adipose tissue, and as a comparison, When brown adipose tissue is metabolized, it produces a less amount of energy as compared to a white adipose tissue, and it produces more amount of heat. So lesser energy and more heat is generated. This is a structure of your adipose tissue with adipocytes, which are the fat cells. Now coming to the last kind of connective tissue, which is the reticular tissue. So reticular tissue has a semi-solid matrix with fine branching reticulin fibers. So reticular tissue mainly has a semi-solid matrix with reticulin fibers in it. It mainly consists of your reticular cells and white blood cells. As you can see in this image, there are reticular cells, there are white blood cells, there are reticulin fibers, and lymph spaces are there. So this is a structure of your reticular tissue. And reticular tissue is present in the lymph node and all the organs of the lymphatic system. So thank you so much, dear students. This was all in today's practical. If you have any queries, any doubt in today's practical, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for attending the practical.